Peter, thank you so much for taking me to your favourite bar, which is Morrissey's, Castle Street, Care, County Tipperary.
That's it, yeah. Morrissey's on Castle Street, yeah, right in the middle of the town, yeah.
It's just, you just don't have to say much about Morrissey's. You just know what type of place it is. Back in the day, absolutely was your go-to place for your tea, your sugar, your beer, and you probably placed the odd bet. Is that the type of spot it is or was?
It's got a little bit of that going on, yeah. It's kind of the place. Would be selling your tea and your coffee probably back in the day, and it's probably a funeral home out the back, and you can get your pints there as well. But I suppose nowadays it's a bit different. It's really just a bar. But yeah, it's my local, and yeah, it's a place I just like going for a beer with some friends or whatever it is. Yeah, it's a very authentic place. So it's a genuine place. It's not one of these super bars or anything like that. It's probably looked the same way for the last 30, 40 years or however long it's been around, and you can kind of tell it's got a kind of a genuineness to it, you know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
as well that kind of probably comes from the guy who owns it. So it's owned by a local man, Brian Coskin, his name, very friendly fella. And it's like someone said to me not so long ago, when you go to a wedding, a wedding takes on the personality of the people whose wedding it is. And it's a bit like that with bars as well. This guy's just a lovely fella. You go and you meet him, he serves you a pint. He's got an open fire if it's a wintry day, and it's just a very nice place.
It's a I guess with the demise of certain other pillars of our society, like the church and etc., pubs and GAA have risen in many respects in what they do for communities, haven't they? Really, they're the place where people still commune.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, think about it this way: like a public house. It was the
Yeah,
cornerstone of how people communicated and met with each other. So it was the data center of its day, Gary. You went there to find out what was going on. So there was a time when people passed on their knowledge and information at places like that. So I
yeah.
think they still have a place in Irish culture. Like, unfortunately, you can't do the 12 pubs of care anymore, because there isn't 12 pubs anymore.
Right.
But some of the good ones are still there. So Marzi's is still there, and it's a great spot. And
And you're a care man.
I'm a
Oh,
care man. Yeah, yeah.
man.
Tipperary care, born and bred. So yeah,
Wow. And
proud care man. Yeah.
and obviously with the changes in work patterns and stuff, you were able to stay there, which is even more wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a crazy journey in a way, because I've kind of been everywhere, really building data centers, and Holland and Denmark and different places, and then
Yeah.
with the pandemic, things changed dramatically overnight, and let's just say we were suddenly using the tools that we had at our disposal but we weren't using before,
Mm.
and it gave me the opportunity to explore moving back to Tipperary, and it's been great. It's been really, 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 really good for us, and really enjoyed it. Yeah.
And probably unlike some other people of your age that have to move back with their mum and dad, you were able to
Yeah, yeah.
your own
So
place.
yeah, yeah, it's a difficult time maybe for that generation in some ways, but
Yeah.
yeah, look, I'm very fortunate, you know what I mean, and I'm very, very glad to be back where I'm from. It's good.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Tip, we're doing okay at the hurling at the moment.
I think
Oh,
we're doing okay.
yeah.
Yeah, a bit to go yet, but we'll see how it goes.
So you mentioned the pandemic, and mentioned sort of digitalization and stuff like that. So there's a massive electrical storm in care, and it wipes out everything except your phone with three apps. And you're the lifeline. You're the lifeline to outside. What are the three apps that you
Well,
absolutely
probably the
have to
first
have?
thing I do is lock my door, Gary, because everyone's going to be banging on my door to use my
Yeah.
phone. But
No, no, but you could sell. You could syndicate it. You see, you could take out the
that's
commercial
good
side of
thinking.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you could become the data center, and you could
yeah.
see. So what are
Yeah.
they?
So I'd probably keep Spotify. I use Spotify a lot, especially traveling. You know what I mean, in terms of podcasts and music. And I like music. I listen to music. So Spotify would be one I definitely keep. YouTube, another really good source of information. I use YouTube quite a lot for news and keeping up to date with different things. YouTube is incredible. It's a bit like a visual and audio version of Wikipedia, if you ask me, because you're on a video, you're learning about something, or you're watching something casually. There's a suggestion for something else. The algorithm is working in your favor. It's picking out things that you're interested in. I think YouTube is incredible, and it's only getting better. And then I'd probably keep Google Maps, because do a bit of traveling. I'm on my holidays in the next couple of weeks, so I wouldn't be able to survive without Google Maps. gets me from A to B and C and so on. So yeah, I'll definitely need that when I'm on my holidays, innit?
Well, certainly the first two in particular. Well, the first one, Spotify. I just find it incredible because it reminds you of, like, you listen to a song and you like that song. It just presents all the songs of that genre
Yeah,
that you may have missed completely. It's
yeah,
that linkages that I really enjoy.
yeah.
That's the thing, to just making my own playlists, which you usually go back to you know, your
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 your go-to 10
standards.
songs from Christy Moore, Gary. Yeah, I know what you
That
mean. Yeah,
that type of stuff. Whereas really, when you had to listen to so much of it over again when we were in locked-ins and all this type of stuff, or you, there's an artist that you liked back in my day in the 80s, but every other sort of genre, you were either a mod or a rocker or a new romantic, and you never really listened to the other genres. And when you go back to the years, then you say, oh, that actually wasn't so, the Morrissey song wasn't actually so depressing after all. So I think it actually helps you to expand your listener base.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It exposes you to new things. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think that's the algorithm working for us. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it can be obviously irritating with adverts and stuff like that, but like the benefits you get with even something as simple as Spotify or, as I said, YouTube. Like, I mean, you're this stuff is being catered to you
yeah,
in a good way. Like
yeah.
like you say, you explore new genres or whatever it is, and you learn new things. So yeah, it's great.
I remember
But
my mother saying just before she passed, she said, all this information you have, ignorance really is an option now, Gary, isn't it? And
yeah, you're right.
it's an amazing, like, she was 80 odd, but it's an interesting way of looking at the world. And that's why we learn so much from other people's perspective. Ignorance tends to be an option now, because to your point, you can make your own decision based on all the information that's available.
Yeah,
Um, and And I think that we're at a big crossing point as well in society, aren't we? You mentioned algorithm a few times.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
there's a negative bias towards all algorithms at the moment because of that's just change, right? But more and more, as we, to your point there, you see it for your over your years of using YouTube, that it presents content that you actually find useful, right?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, because it's learning, what patterns and material that you like, from what I can see anyway, and it's giving that back to you in spades or suggesting new things. There's definitely, going back to Spotify, there's definitely music that I would never have found or be
Yeah,
listening to if I hadn't been, on the internet using Spotify, and that algorithm wasn't working for me. So
yeah,
I think it's great. And like you said, with the ignorance thing, I suppose, the other side of that is, like, yeah, you've no excuse to be ignorant anymore. You've got access to so much information. But then again, sometimes we all end up like robots, listening to the same 5 podcasts and repeating the same
yeah.
opinions and passing them off as our own as well. You know what I mean?
That's the
But
truth too. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
truth. That's,
yeah,
that's there's no doubt about that you can amplify a negative much easier than previously before. Um, so we're sitting on the bar. Our friend has given us a cup of coffee and a creamy pint, and the door bursts open, and there's one person, dead or alive, that you'd love to have a chat with and sit down. Who is it?
I think for me, like, I have keen interest in history anyway, and kind of historical figures. But I suppose I couldn't go too far back with this, because you can't bring Napoleon into Morrissey's bar. He'd just get confused and stare at the light bulbs. But who I'd probably bring in would be Tom Crean. So a publican himself. Tom Crean is a very interesting character, a Kerry man who was an Antarctic explorer and achieved amazing things. He didn't win the race to the South Pole, but he was a bit of a hero in terms of saving people's lives, and a huge part of that polar exploration piece. And I just think, I suppose, listen to different podcasts about him, or the book An Unsung Hero is a great book about Tom Crean as well. Just a really interesting character, someone that's could inspire people. You know what I mean? I think his story is great, and as well the idea that he retired quietly into the life of a publican down in Kerry. And it wasn't until years later that people started to realize the achievements of this man. Post Civil War, post the turmoil there that happened at that period in time, and his story came out, and it's an amazing story.
Does he sometimes, unfortunately, get mixed up with Shackleton?
He does. I suppose you know, he was a contributor as opposed to a leader. You know what I mean? He was part of the team that went there.
Yeah.
But it's not that he was the leader, you know, holding the flag and leading everyone to the South Pole or anything like that. It's what he did when the failures happened. You know what I mean? When they were losing the race, or when the boat was destroyed, say, you know what I mean? And he basically saved people's lives. You know, he was the hero of the time. He was the guy who who pulled it all together and helped people survive. He was the one who stepped up when things were difficult. You know, so he's a different kind of hero as opposed to the explorers. You know, he was part of that team, but he achieved other things. You know, he was a very inspiring character, if you ask me.
It's extraordinary what you said there, and it just reminded me. I went to listen to Chris Hadfield. You know, the guy who's the astronaut, who was captain of the International Space Station.
This guy playing the guitar on
yeah. And his youngest girl or oldest daughter was in Trinity at the time, so he always used to do the shout out for Ireland. Anyway, but I went to listen to him speaking, and he was one of those kids of 4 that got the big banana box and thought he was a spaceman and went for the stars and all that type of stuff. But he actually said exactly what you just said there about an astronaut, and it took me a while to understand it. He said, we astronauts are trained for failure, not success.
Yeah.
And you go, what? Sorry? Yeah. And he gave the example of the pilot on the first moon landing. They had trained until 6 seconds before they landed. The pilot realized where they had told us to land was actually on top of boulders the size of cars. So he had to go on to automatic drive or manual drive and navigate them away with 6 seconds of fuel or something. He said that's what all the training was for, not to land safely. That's nearly a given, sort of. It's what you do when shit goes wrong.
Yeah. Everyone's a leader when things are going right, Gary, but when things go wrong, that's when the real leadership steps up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that you know, not to paraphrase anyone in the same category as Crean and Shackleton and Hadfield, but Mike Tyson also used to say everybody has a plan until somebody gets until you get a punch in the nose. You know, you get a smack in the nose, and that basically.
Well, if you get it from Mike Tyson, you might not be a way to think about it, but absolutely,
you probably wouldn't. So listen, Peter, it's been short and sharp. I'll let you go on with your day. I know you have a young arrival recently, so I hope you're getting a bit of sleep during the night and not waiting.
Yeah, it's shaking things up, Gary. The routine has changed quite a bit, but the positives outweigh the negatives a million to one. So we're having a great time. We're having a ball. Yeah.
You're home in your community, so I'm sure you've got. If you're still talking to your mother and father, and father-in-law, mother-in-law,
absolutely, yeah.
Bring them down to Morrissey's there, and he'll give them a little dram of whiskey. That'll sort out any sleeping issues. I'm sure.
any teething problems, yeah.
Any teething problems, yeah. You might have other issues down the line if you get them too much, but it'll stop the teething problems. Peter, thanks a million for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Gary. Yeah, great chatting to you.